Hello everyone, I am Qian Yu, and today we will be looking at the video game wars from 1980 to 2020. Over the past 5 decades, video games have grown from a niche hobby into one of the biggest entertainment industry in the world. In these presentations, we will explore how gaming sales evolve over time, followed by which console and regions led the market, and lastly, zoom into how player preference changed along the way. Let's start by looking at how global video game sales have changed from 1980 to 2020. The blue line represents yearly sale, while the orange dashed line shows the 3-year rolling average. We can see that the sales remained relatively low through the 1980s and early 1990s, followed by a sharp rise starting in the late 1990s. The highlighted beige regions marks the gaming boom era, dominated by the PlayStation 2, Nintendo Wii, and Xbox 360 console, roughly between 2005 and 2012. During this period, the industry reached its historical peak around 2008, with total annual sales exceeding 500 million units. After that, sales began to decline, reflecting the transitions to digital distributions and mobile gaming. Overall, the chart captures the industry golden age and the later structural shift in how games were produced and consumed. Now that we've seen the big picture of gaming boom, let's dive deeper into engines that powered it, the console themselves. This chart compares the top 10 consoles' lifetime performance. On the x-axis, we have total sales in millions, and on the y-axis, average sales per game. Each bubble represents a console, with its size showing the number of game released. From here, we can see that PlayStation 2 clearly dominates. It sold over 1 billion units in total, driven by a huge game library, even though the average sales per game were only moderate. Moving to the next generations, the PS3 and Xbox 360 stand out for much higher average sales per title, meaning games on these platforms sold strongly despite fewer releases, signaling a market shift towards quality over quantity and the rise of blockbuster franchise. To understand why sales change, we need to see where they come from, the regional markets driving global demands. Here we can see how different regions contribute to global game sales over time. In the early years and throughout the 1990s, Japan dominates the market, thanks to Nintendo and PlayStation, which led the console boom. As we move towards the 2000s, you'll notice North America growing rapidly, taking over as the biggest market, driven by franchises like Halo, Grand Theft Auto, and Call of Duty. By the 2010s, Europe catch up, and both North America and Europe start contributing most equally to global sales, while Japan's share gradually declines. This shift reflects how gaming evolved from a Japan-centric industry into truly global markets. Let's look at how global genre preference evolved over time. In the early 1980s, gaming was still finding its identity. Simple shooter and action titles like Space Invader and Pac-Man led the scene. Moving into late 1980s and 1990s, we start to see more variety. Around early 20, sports and racing titles took over. Series like FIFA, Gran Turismo, and Need for Speed dominated global charts. By the mid-20s to 2010s, action and shooter games rose sharply, driven by cinematic storytelling and global franchises like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. Overall, this timeline shows the transformations from arcade simplicity to blockbuster storytelling. These global trends tell one story. Each region had its own distinct taste. Let's see how Japan and North America differ in their preference. In Japan, role-playing games stand out as the biggest share. Titles like Final Fantasies and Pokémon have always been culture icon there. Meanwhile, sports and action games also perform strongly, showing Japan's balanced but story-driven market. On the North America side, it's a very different picture. Action and shooter games dominated, led by series like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. So overall, Japan stands to favor story and fantasy, while North America leans toward fast-paced and competitive genres. And across all the regions and genres, some names have truly stood the test of time, shaping not just sales, but popular culture itself. Here we have the best-selling game series of all time. You will see names like Call of Duty, FIFA, Grand Theft Auto, The Sims, and Assassin's Creed standing out. These are titles so iconic that even people who don't play games, like me, have probably heard of them, or well, seen this picture somewhere before. They remind us of how gaming has become a shared cultural experience, connecting players across regions, platforms, and generations. From simple pixel on a screen to a cinematic blockbuster we know today, video games have evolved into a global art form. This journey isn't just about technology, it's about imaginations, culture, and connections. Thank you.